Captain Lisa Owens stared at the view screen of the Horizon with wide eyes. The alien ship drifted in space, its hull damaged and leaking a strange blue gas. This was not how she imagined humanity's first contact would happen. "Life signs?" she asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "5, Captain," responded Eric, her science officer. "Oxygen levels dropping in their main compartment." Lisa nodded and made her decision quickly. "Prep the rescue team. Full containment protocols." 30 minutes later, 5 reptilian aliens with emerald scales and 4 eyes stood in the Horizon's quarantine bay. They wore damaged silver suits and looked around with a mixture of fear and confusion. The tallest alien stepped forward. Its translator device crackled before producing rough English. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Vorzak Confederation. We are surprised. Your species should be cataloged." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Cataloged?" "By the Galactic Council," Krell explained. "All spacefaring species are documented and monitored. You are unexpected." The ship's doctor, Ben Rogers, approached with medical equipment. "Your crew is injured. With your permission, I'd like to help." The aliens exchanged glances. Their surprise was obvious even across species. One of them whispered something to Krell, who seemed to be considering his response carefully. "You would assist us without demanding payment or technology?" Krell asked. Lisa smiled. "Of course. That's what people do when they find others in trouble." For 3 days, the Horizon crew worked alongside the Vorzak to repair their ship. The aliens watched with growing interest as the humans solved problems with simple tools and creative approaches instead of relying on advanced technology. On the 4th day, Lisa found Krell studying Earth's history on a datapad. "Your species evolved on a predator-rich world," he noted. "Very unusual. Most council species come from more peaceful environments." "Earth has never been particularly peaceful," Lisa admitted. "Yet you help strangers without hesitation," Krell said. "Fascinating contradiction." When the Vorzak ship was ready to depart, Krell requested a private meeting with Lisa. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he spoke. "Captain Owens, I have sent messages to my government. The Vorzak will sponsor Earth's petition to join the Council. This is not commonly done for unregistered species." Lisa felt the weight of the moment. Why us? Why now? The Council has grown stagnant. Many species have forgotten what it means to face real challenges. They rely on technology and protocols. Your people still know how to adapt. Krell's scales shifted color slightly. "And frankly, I find your approach refreshing." He handed her a small crystal device. "Coordinates to the nearest Council outpost. They will be expecting your representatives in 1 standard year." As the Vorzak ship pulled away, Lisa gathered her crew on the bridge. "Ladies and gentlemen, it seems humanity has been invited to join the galactic community." Her communications officer, Kelly Patel, grinned. "Think they're ready for us, Captain?" Lisa looked at the crystal in her hand. "Probably not. But they're going to meet us anyway." Back on Earth, news of the encounter spread quickly. Scientists studied the translation technology while diplomats prepared for interstellar relations. Military leaders worried about potential threats, and religious leaders debated the meaning of alien life. In a secure conference room in Geneva, government officials from around the world met to select Earth's first official delegation to the Galactic Council. "We need our best and brightest," said the UN Secretary General. "People who represent the best qualities of humanity." A military advisor leaned forward. "We should remember that we'll be walking into a room full of species with technology far beyond ours. We need to show strength." Lisa Owens, now promoted to Admiral, shook her head. "No, we need to show them who we really are." That's what impressed the Vorzak. Not our technology, but our humanity. 5 years later, humanity was ready to take its first steps onto the galactic stage. No one knew what waited for them among the stars, but one thing was certain: The universe was about to meet the most adaptable species it had ever encountered. 5 years passed quickly as Earth prepared for its grand entrance into galactic politics. The ship carrying Earth's first official delegation, named Unity *, glided through space toward the massive Council Station. Inside, Ambassador Rick Nelson adjusted his formal uniform and tried to calm his nerves. "Final briefing in 10 minutes," said Major Susan Carter, the military advisor. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail as if it might become a battlefield. Susan had been chosen for both her tactical mind and her unusual patience. Rick nodded and turned to the window where Dr. Alan Wright, the team's xenobiologist, was staring at the approaching station. "It's beautiful," Alan whispered. The Council Station looked like a giant silver flower with petals that rotated slowly in different directions. Hundreds of ships moved around it like busy insects. Olivia Martinez joined them at the window. As cultural attaché, she had spent years studying the limited information the Vorzak had shared about Council species. "Remember," she said softly, "most of these aliens have never seen a human before. Everything we do will shape their view of Earth." A familiar reptilian face appeared on the communication screen. Ambassador Krell's scales had darkened with age, but his 4 eyes still held the same curious light. "Ambassador Nelson, welcome," Krell said. "I must warn you, the reception may be cooler than expected. The Council has been debating your arrival for years." Rick frowned. "We were invited." "By the Vorzak," Krell corrected. "The Aldari, who lead the Council, see you as primitive. They have placed Earth in the Class 4 category." Alan looked up from his notes. "Class 4. That's barely above pre-spaceflight civilization." Krell's scales shifted to a blue tint, which they had learned indicated discomfort. "It means you are seen as unpredictable and potentially violent. I have argued against this, but the Aldari rarely change their minds." The Unity docked 6 hours later. The human delegation stepped into the station's entry hall, where they faced their first test. 3 tall, thin aliens with pale blue skin and large silver eyes waited. These were the Aldari. "Welcome to Central Station," said the middle Aldari without any warmth. "I am Secretary Valen. You will undergo standard Class 4 entry protocols." The protocols turned out to be humiliating. The humans were scanned, their belongings searched, and their communications devices temporarily disabled. Susan noted that other arriving species received far more respectful treatment. Their quarters were located in the station's lowest level, far from the important meeting areas. The rooms were small and simple compared to the luxury visible in other sections. "This is deliberate," Olivia said as they gathered in Rick's room that evening. "They're establishing dominance." Rick paced the small space. "So what do? "We watch and learn," Susan suggested. "Every system has weaknesses." Alan had been quiet, studying data on his pad. "I've been analyzing the biological profiles Krell sent us. Something interesting. Almost all Council species evolved on worlds with few natural predators or environmental challenges." "What does that mean for us?" Rick asked. "It means they've never had to fight to survive like humans have," Alan explained. "They've never faced extinction-level events or adapted to radical changes. Their evolution was comfortable." Olivia's eyes widened. "That explains their behavior. They value stability and predictability above all. Humans represent chaos to them." In the following days, the humans attended preliminary meetings with lower-level Council officials. At each one, they were seated far from the center tables, sometimes without proper translation equipment. The message was clear: Earth did not matter. During one reception, Rick found himself cornered by a group of minor Aldari diplomats. "Is it true humans still fight wars among themselves?" one asked with what seemed like horrified fascination. "Is it true you eat other animals?" asked another. Rick answered their questions patiently, aware that every word would be analyzed. Behind the Aldari's polite questions, he sensed fear. These advanced aliens were afraid of humans, and Rick wasn't sure if that was good or bad for Earth's future. That night, as the delegation regrouped, a message arrived from Krell. The full council session is moved forward. You present Earth's case in 2 weeks, not 2 months as planned. The Aldari are trying to rush your application through with minimal attention. Be prepared. Rick Nelson woke early on the day of their first official council meeting. He found Major Susan Carter already awake, running through a series of exercises in the small common area of their quarters. Couldn't sleep? Rick asked. Susan completed her push-ups before answering. Just staying ready. Something feels off about this place. Their Vorzak guide, a junior diplomat named Traz, arrived to escort them to the meeting. As they walked through the station's winding corridors, Olivia noticed how other species moved aside, watching the humans with a mixture of curiosity and unease. They act like we might bite, she whispered to Alan. For many of them, we're the first predator species they've encountered, Alan replied. Look at their eyes, wide set, no depth perception. They evolved as prey. The meeting chamber was enormous, with seating arranged in rising circles. The humans were directed to seats in the highest ring, far from the central speaking floor. Rick noted that even the Vorzak representatives sat much closer to the center. For 3 hours, they listened to discussions about trade routes, resource disputes, and technological regulations. Most of it was conducted in the Council's standard language, with their translators working overtime to keep up. During a break, Krell approached their section. You are doing well, he said quietly. Many expected displays of impatience or aggression. They're testing us, Susan observed. Krell's scales rippled in what they had learned was agreement. The Aldari High Chancellor will address the session after the break. Listen carefully, he rarely mentions new species directly. When the session resumed, a tall Aldari with ornate silver markings on his blue skin took the central position. High Chancellor Nevin spoke for 30 minutes about the Council's achievements and challenges. Just as Rick thought they would go unmentioned, Nevin gestured vaguely toward their section. We acknowledge the presence of representatives from Sol 3, classified as a Class 4 developing world. The Council welcomes all species who demonstrate the capacity for peaceful cooperation. The emphasis on peaceful was unmistakable. Later that day, the human delegation was invited to a cultural exchange event. Various species showcased art, music, and food from their worlds. No space had been allocated for Earth's contributions. Another slight, Rick muttered. Or an opportunity, Olivia countered. She approached the event organizer, a small amphibian species called the Myth, and engaged them in conversation. 20 minutes later, a small table appeared for Earth's offerings. From her bag, Olivia produced items she had brought specifically for such a moment. A small watercolor painting of Earth's oceans, a digital player with classical music, and most popular of all, chocolate. This is remarkable, said a Myth representative, savoring a piece. Such complex flavors from natural ingredients. Word spread quickly. Soon their table was surrounded by curious aliens. Even a few junior Aldari drifted over, trying to appear disinterested while clearly intrigued. Dr. Alan Wright used the opportunity to gather information. Each conversation revealed more about the Council's species' mindsets. By evening, he had filled pages of notes. I've confirmed my theory, he told the others when they returned to their quarters. Most Council species evolved in stable environments with abundant resources and few threats. They developed technology through curiosity, not necessity. While humans evolved fighting for every step, Susan added. Exactly, Alan said. We developed tools to survive. We adapted to extreme conditions. We learned to cooperate in crisis situations. These abilities are rare in the galaxy. Rick considered this information. So they fear us because we're survivors. They fear what they don't understand, Olivia said. And they don't understand how a species can be both highly cooperative and highly competitive. Over the next week, the humans attended more meetings, each one relegating them to observer status. They were allowed to speak only briefly. their questions often dismissed as simplistic or not relevant to council matters. After a particularly frustrating session about technology sharing, from which Earth was excluded, Susan noticed something concerning on a security monitor. "Those aren't council ships," she said, pointing to a cluster of dark vessels approaching the station's outer ring. Their design was unlike anything they had seen before. At that exact moment, alarms began to sound throughout the station. A panicked voice came over the communication system. "Alert! Unidentified vessels approaching. All security personnel to defensive positions. This is not a drill." The human delegation exchanged glances. Something was very wrong, and none of the council species seemed prepared for it. The station shook violently. Lights flickered and died, plunging corridors into darkness before emergency lighting activated with a dim red glow. Rick grabbed a wall panel to steady himself as another impact rocked the station. "We need to get to the main council chamber," he said. "That's where the leadership will gather." Susan was already moving, her military training evident in her quick, precise actions. "Stay together. Watch each other's backs." The corridors were filled with panicked aliens rushing in all directions. Many of the council species had never experienced an emergency situation. Some stood frozen in fear, while others ran without direction. "What's happening?" Alan asked a passing Vorzak. "Kryvak's attack." The Vorzak hissed. "They were thought extinct for centuries. They've used some kind of pulse weapon. Most systems are failing." The main council chamber was in chaos when they arrived. Various species argued loudly while the Aldari leadership huddled in the center, their usual calm completely gone. High Chancellor Nevin was shouting orders that no one followed. "Why aren't the defense systems responding?" Nevin demanded. A tech specialist waved multiple arms in distress. "The electromagnetic pulse disabled all primary systems. Backups are failing too." "What about the emergency protocols?" another Aldari asked. "The protocols require working computers," the technician cried. Susan stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "You have mechanical backups, don't you?" The aliens turned to stare at the humans, seemingly noticing them for the first time. "Mechanical." The technician looked confused. "Those systems are ancient. No one knows how to operate them." "Show me," Susan demanded. Rick watched as Susan took control of the situation naturally. He turned to the Aldari leadership. "High Chancellor, we need to organize. How many people are on this station? Where are the secure areas?" Nevin seemed taken aback by the direct questions. "There are approximately 12,000 beings from 37 species. The inner rings are considered secure, but with systems down. We need to establish a command center," Rick said firmly. "Now." For a moment, Nevin's pride seemed to war with practicality. Then he nodded slowly. "The council emergency room is this way." As they moved through the station, Olivia noticed something alarming. "The life support is failing. I can feel the temperature dropping." Ellen checked a manual gauge on the wall. "Oxygen recyclers are at 60% and falling. We have maybe 5 hours before levels become critical." In the emergency room, screens showed static while communication devices remained silent. Susan returned from inspecting the mechanical systems. "They have manual overrides for everything," she reported, but as the technician said, no one remembers how to use them. "These species have relied on automation for too long." "We need to divide tasks," Rick decided. "Susan, work on defense and security. Ellen, focus on life support. Olivia, we need you to organize communication between species. I'll coordinate with station leadership." The next hours tested everyone. Susan discovered that most council security forces were untrained for actual combat. They carried weapons they had never fired outside of simulations. With the help of a few Vorzak, she began organizing defense teams at key points. Ellen found that the life support system could be operated manually, but it required physical labor that many council species found difficult or distasteful. "I need volunteers to turn these cranks continuously," He explained to a group of reluctant aliens. It will circulate air until we can restore power. Olivia faced her own challenges. Many species were refusing to cooperate with their traditional rivals, even in this crisis. Your histories don't matter right now, she told arguing representatives. Only survival matters. Rick discovered that the Council's leadership structure collapsed without their technology. The Aldari, used to having data for every decision, seemed paralyzed by uncertainty. We can't wait for perfect information, he told Nevin. We need to act now based on what we know. A loud boom echoed through the station, followed by the sound of tearing metal. They're breaking through the outer hull, Susan reported. We're out of time. Who are these Kryvacs? Rick asked Nevin. The High Chancellor's blue skin had paled to almost white, a species we thought we had pacified long ago. They were warriors, resistant to joining the Council. We restricted their territory until they agreed to our terms. You backed them into a corner, Susan translated. And now they're back. A voice came over the emergency communication system, the first working communication since the attack began. Attention Council species. We are the Kryvacs. Your time of rule has ended. Surrender or die. The Kryvacs message echoed through the station, leaving silence in its wake. In the emergency room, Rick looked at the faces around him. Fear had replaced the Aldari's usual confidence. Other species seemed equally lost. They're waiting for us to respond, Rick said. But we need time. He grabbed the communication device and spoke clearly. This is Ambassador Rick Nelson of Earth. We request 12 hours to discuss your terms. Silence followed. Then a harsh voice replied, You are not Council leadership. Where is the Aldari High Chancellor? Rick glanced at Nevin, who seemed unable to speak. The High Chancellor has appointed me as negotiator. 12 hours. After a long pause, the voice responded, 6 hours. Then we start killing hostages. Rick turned to the others. That gives us time. Susan, what's our security situation? Susan pulled up a hand-drawn map of the station. The Kryvacs have breached 3 sections in the outer ring. They're moving slowly, probably unfamiliar with the station layout. I've positioned mixed defense teams at these junction points. Mixed teams? High Chancellor Nevin asked. Different species have different strengths, Susan explained. The myth can squeeze through small spaces for reconnaissance. Vorzak have excellent vision in low light. We're using what works. Meanwhile, Alan had organized rotation teams to keep life support functioning manually. He had discovered that the Jurax, a quiet species from a high-gravity world, had exceptional physical strength. They worked the air circulation cranks, while other species handled different tasks. We've stabilized oxygen levels, Alan reported. And I think I found something useful. He held up a small container. Standard human medical supplies. Contains compounds similar to capsaicin, the chemical that makes peppers spicy. How is that useful? Nevin asked. I analyzed the Kryvacs biology from old Council records. Alan explained. Their respiratory system is highly sensitive. This could incapacitate them without harming other species. Olivia had made progress too. I've established communication relays using runners from various species. We can pass messages throughout the station now. A young Aldari aide rushed in. The Kryvacs are moving faster than expected. They've taken level 7. Susan immediately adjusted her map. They're heading for the power core. If they control that, they control everything. Rick made a quick decision. Susan, take a team and secure the power core. Alan, get your capsaicin weapons ready. Olivia, spread the word. Anyone who can help with defense should report to designated safe zones. As the humans mobilized the station's resources, something unexpected happened. Social barriers between species began to break down. Species that had been rivals for centuries now worked side by side to repair systems and treat the injured. In the medical bay, a Vorzak doctor taught Alan a technique to treat plasma burns. Your adaptability is remarkable, the doctor said, Most species take years to learn this procedure. Humans are good at learning on the fly, Alan replied as he quickly mastered the technique. Near the power core, Susan's mixed-species defense team prepared for the Kryvax approach. She had armed them with improvised weapons, tools converted to clubs, pressurized canisters that could be used as projectiles, and makeshift shields. "Remember your training," she told them, though the training had been a hasty 15-minute lesson. "Stay in formation. Protect each other." When the first Kryvax raiders appeared, tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms wielding energy weapons, Susan's team was ready. They launched Alan's capsaicin devices first, filling the corridor with a fine mist. The Kryvax fell back, coughing and disoriented. Susan's team pressed the advantage, moving forward in the tight formation she had taught them. Back in the emergency room, Rick worked with Nevin and other council leaders to develop a long-term plan. The Alderi watched with growing respect as Rick managed the crisis without the extensive data and prediction models they relied on. "How do you make decisions with so little information?" Nevin finally asked. Rick smiled grimly. "This is what humans do. We face the unknown every day. We call it living." A young messenger rushed in. "Ambassador, Major Carter has secured the power core. Dr. Wright has restored emergency power to sections 5 through 9. For the first time since the attack, a flicker of hope appeared on the faces around them. The station wasn't lost yet, and humans were showing the way forward. 6 hours had passed since the Kryvax ultimatum. Rick stood in the makeshift command center, now buzzing with activity as representatives from various species worked together. "Their patience is about to run out," he told the gathered leaders. "We need to push them back before they start killing hostages." Susan pointed to her updated map. "We've secured these key areas." The Kryvax hold approximately 1/3 of the station, mostly in the outer rings. They seem to be struggling with our improvised defenses. High Chancellor Nevin had changed over the past hours. The proud, dismissive Alderi now listened carefully to the humans. "What do you propose, Ambassador Nelson?" "We stop defending and start attacking," Rick said firmly. "The Kryvax expect us to hide and wait for rescue. We need to surprise them." Ellen stepped forward. "I've been working with the myth biochemists. We've created more effective versions of the capsaicin weapons. They'll work in larger areas and last longer. And I've identified potential hostage locations," Olivia added. "The Jirax can hear through walls with their sensitive ear membranes. They've detected movement in these 3 sections." Rick looked at Nevin. "We need your approval, High Chancellor. This plan involves risk." Nevin's silver-marked face showed conflict. For his entire career, he had relied on predictive models and consensus building. Now he faced a situation requiring immediate action with uncertain outcomes. "Proceed, Ambassador," he finally said. "The Council trusts your judgment." Susan organized assault teams, mixing species based on their abilities. The Vorzak, with their natural strength, formed the front lines. The nimble myth would deploy Alan's chemical weapons. Council security forces who had received Susan's crash course in combat tactics would secure each section. "Remember," Susan told them, "the Kryvax expect you to be uncoordinated and afraid. Your unity is your strength." As the counterattack began, Rick remained in the command center with Nevin, coordinating through Olivia's messenger network. Reports came in steadily. Section 42 secured. Hostages freed in level 8. Kryvax retreating from power regulation. Not all news was good. Some defense teams suffered casualties. The Kryvax fought fiercely, especially when cornered. But the tide was turning. In Sector 37, Susan led a team toward a major Kryvax position. They moved quietly through service tunnels that Alan had discovered on old station blueprints. When they emerged behind enemy lines, the Kryvax were completely surprised. "Now," Susan shouted, and the myth released the capsaicin bombs. As the Kryvax fell back, coughing and disoriented, Susan's team pressed forward. The Kryvax commander, a tall figure with elaborate gray skin markings, faced Susan directly. Unlike his troops, he wore a breathing filter that protected him from the chemicals. He raised an energy weapon. Susan had trained for moments like this. She dodged the first blast, rolled forward, and struck upward with her improvised staff. The Kryvax commander staggered back, but quickly recovered, swinging at her with his multiple arms. "You fight well for a soft council species," he growled through his translator. "I'm human," Susan replied, circling cautiously. "We're new here." The brief conversation gave her team time to surround the commander. Seeing he was outnumbered, the Kryvax leader triggered an emergency signal. Throughout the station, Kryvax forces began a coordinated retreat toward their ships. In the command center, Rick watched the tactical display as red dots representing Kryvax positions diminished. "They're pulling back," he announced. Nevin seemed stunned. "We won." "Not yet," Rick cautioned. "They'll regroup and attack again unless we can prevent it," a communication officer called out. Incoming transmission from the Kryvax ships. The same harsh voice they had heard earlier filled the room. "You fight with unexpected skill, Council weaklings, but this is merely a setback. We will return with greater forces." Rick stepped forward. "This is Ambassador Nelson. Before you leave, know this. The next time you face us, we'll be better prepared. Humanity has joined the Council, and we don't surrender easily." A long silence followed. Then, "Humanity, we will remember this name." The transmission ended as the Kryvax ships pulled away from the station. For the first time in 12 hours, the emergency sirens stopped wailing. In the sudden quiet, Nevin turned to Rick. "You have saved the Council, Ambassador Nelson. We will not forget this." 3 months after the Kryvax attack, the Council station hummed with activity. Repair crews had fixed most of the damage. New security systems, designed with input from Major Susan Carter, now protected the station. Regular drills ensured that all species knew how to respond to future emergencies. Today marked the first full Council session since the attack. Rick adjusted his formal uniform as he prepared to enter the Grand Hall. The human delegation had been moved to new quarters in the station's inner ring, close to other important species. "Ready?" Susan asked, standing beside him in her dress uniform. She had become something of a legend among the station's security forces. Alan and Olivia joined them, both looking formal but relaxed. The past months had transformed them all. They had gone from unwelcome visitors to respected figures. "The Aldari sent a message," Olivia said. "We've been assigned new seats for today's session." Rick nodded. After the crisis, many things had changed. Old station protocols had been updated. Species that had proven themselves during the attack gained new standing. Earth's Class 4 status was already under review. Krell met them at the entrance to the Grand Hall. The Vorzak ambassador's scales showed a proud green color. "My friends," he said warmly, "this day has been long coming." Inside, the hall looked magnificent. Delegates from all 37 Council species filled the tiered seating. Conversations quieted as the human delegation entered. Eyes turned to watch them. Rick expected to be directed to better seats than before, perhaps in the middle tiers. Instead, Krell led them directly toward the central floor where only the most important species sat. "There must be a mistake," Rick whispered. "No mistake," Krell replied. "These are your assigned positions." The humans took their seats at the main table as murmurs spread through the hall. High Chancellor Nevin entered with his advisors. The Aldari leader looked different now, less rigid, more aware. The attack had changed him too. Nevin approached the central podium. "This emergency session of the Galactic Council is now in session. Our first order of business concerns the formal status of Earth." Rick had prepared a careful speech requesting improved status. He now wondered if it would be necessary. 3 months ago, Niven continued, this station and this council faced destruction. Our systems failed. Our protocols proved inadequate. Our leadership, he paused, myself included, were unprepared. The hall remained silent. Such admission was unprecedented from an Aldari. In that moment of crisis, it was the representatives of Earth, a planet we had classified as primitive, who showed us the way forward. Their adaptability, courage, and leadership saved countless lives and preserved the Council itself. Nevin turned to face the human delegation directly. Ambassador Nelson, Major Carter, Dr. Wright, Cultural Attaché Martins, the Council owes you a debt that cannot be repaid, but we can begin by correcting our error. He lifted a ceremonial staff. By unanimous vote of the High Council, Earth is reclassified as a Class 1 partner world with full voting rights and representation. Furthermore, a new Council Emergency Response Division will be established under Major Carter's guidance. Applause filled the hall, tentative at first, then growing stronger. Species that had once viewed humans with suspicion now showed respect. Even the Aldari delegates joined the applause. After the session, a reception was held in the Grand Atrium. The humans found themselves surrounded by representatives seeking alliances, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. A junior Aldari diplomat approached Susan, curiosity evident in his large silver eyes. Major Carter, something puzzles me. During the crisis, you and your colleagues seemed so prepared, as if you had trained for such events, yet no one could have anticipated the Kravax attack. Susan smiled slightly. Where we come from, we call it Tuesday. The diplomat's translator struggled with the reference. Tuesday, is this a special human term? Just another day on Earth, Susan explained. We face challenges constantly. It's part of being human. As the diplomat moved away, still confused, the human delegation exchanged knowing glances. They had opened a door that could never be closed. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as newcomers to be tolerated, but as equals to be respected. Across the room, Nevin raised a ceremonial glass toward them. The message was clear. The galaxy would never be the same again.